I had a chance to visit that part of the world back some years ago. I had a chance to sit down with Musharraf and talk about some of the issues there. Things have gotten even more complicated since then, and I followed it with great interest. It's apparent to me now, and there are some scattered reports out now, that Al-Qaeda is now acknowledged that they're behind it. Not a big surprise, because they create the perfect dilemma for that government and the perfect dilemma really for the United States of America. And they're driven to distraction about the notion that a secular woman could be the head of a government, especially one that's tough on terrorism. So they do what they do. And they've done all across the Middle East, over into Northern Africa, parts of Asia, Indonesia, and places like that, all around the world. And of course, we've seen what's happened in Europe. It is a part of a much bigger picture. And it's important to us in so many different ways. This is a nation that has a nuclear arsenal. It's the only Muslim country in the world that has a nuclear arsenal. So on the one hand, we're trying to push toward democracy, as well we should. And we have rejoiced in seeing the progress that they have made in recent days there toward a more democratic and open society. Hello, Steve. And Musharraf taking off his uniform and saying, yes, that we will have elections first of next year in Pakistan. All those things were on track. And the radicals, of course, couldn't stand that either. So they had to act. And now they've created chaos. And Musharraf is getting credit in the street for being behind this, which I very, very seriously doubt. So now we've got the forces that were at work at democracy pitted against the need for security. How far can they let rioting in the streets go? How close can we let radical hands get to the nuclear weapons? Those two things are now pitted against each other in a terrible conflict, and they must be resolved, and both interests must be preserved. But this is what one or a handful or a few people in a particular location can cause. Not only a heinously murderous act, but throwing a whole country, a whole part of the region, an important part of the region, lying between India, that they've been in conflict with over the years, and next to Afghanistan, and having the Taliban, and probably Osama bin Laden hiding out in their mountains and so forth. Very important part of the world to us on the other side of the world, almost. Thrown into total chaos. The point here, my friends, is not just the tragedy of what's happening there, and not even the danger of the nuclear situation that's prevalent there, but it is so indicative of a much broader picture. It's indicative of the kind of world that we live in today. It is a dangerous world. It is a complicated world. We have Al-Qaeda and terrorist organizations. We have rogue nations in various levels and various states of nuclear capability. And we have incidents that remind us time and time again that we're dealing with a different kind of force here. We're dealing with people talk about rounding them up and, bringing the perpetrators to justice. Well, that'd be great, wouldn't it? But this is not a criminal investigation. This is a war. And these people don't mind dying if they can bring large numbers of other innocent people to death with them. Now that's the kind of force that we're dealing with. And it is going to require resolve. It is going to require unity. It is going to require toughness, mental toughness on our part to do what's necessary on all fronts, both militarily, diplomatically, and otherwise, and rejoining with our allies and an understanding that this is the forces of civilization against the forces of anarchy. And it's us against them. And we need to understand and realize that. And understand that it could be a lot closer than Pakistan for us if we don't do what is right. What is right. That's why that we're talking about leadership and have been. during this last bus tour that we've all on here. I've been to Iowa many times over the years. A lot of times before I ever even thought about running for president of the United States, I was out here for Jim Blackfoot, I was out here for Jim Nussel, I was out here every time Chuck Grassley told me to come out here for the state party. But in this particular time, it's special, not just because we're talking about the presidency of the United States, but because of the times that we're in, and because of the seriousness of the issues that are on our plate as a nation. Now, I said what a fellow believes, and also said where he's been. Well, my record is pretty clear. I had the opportunity to serve in Washington dealing with the very issues that are involved in this presidential race now. They weren't state issues, they weren't local issues, they were national, federal issues. And I and my colleagues passed 5 major tax cuts. I and my colleagues passed welfare reform. We balanced the budget 4 years in a row. We fought for conservative judges. And I compiled a 100% pro-life voting record, which I'm very proud of. I'm here to tell you I'm the same guy today that I was then, when I was serving then. And yeah, I even cast a lone vote every once in a while when I thought it was necessary. 99-1, and I was the one. And I still think I'm right. It usually had to do with issues of federalism and whether or not the federal government ought to be messing in a particular area or whether it ought to be left to the local area. Just because it sounds good doesn't mean that the questioning ought to be beginning with regard to what the federal government can do. Is it a proper role for government? And if so, at what level of government? My colleagues didn't like to go through that exercise, but I went through it every time. And that's my record. I'm the same man today I was back then. I'll be the same man tomorrow. What you see is what you get. I wear no man's collar, and nobody's ever accused me of changing my political position for the sake of political expediency. Where I stand does not depend on where I'm standing or what office I'm running for. And I'm proud of that record. When I served in the United States Senate, I tried to concentrate on matters that I thought were the most important to our nation. Those matters of national security. Safety of our people comes first and foremost, and everybody's consideration. I served and asked to serve and waited in line to serve on the Intelligence Committee. I've had a chance to travel the world and meet with foreign leaders, sometimes friendly, sometimes not so friendly. Sometimes China and Russia, places like that. I've had a chance to meet in small, safe rooms with our CIA officers who are stationed in those places to bring me up to date on what was going on in that part of the world, and make sure we understood the world and what was happening. Back home, I was the Republican floor manager for the Homeland Security Bill. When we passed that, I like to think that that's had something to do with the fact that we haven't had another attack since 9/11. Although I'm the first to admit we've probably been pretty lucky too, to tell you the truth about it. When I left the United States Senate, I didn't leave government service. When I had the opportunity, I stepped up, and I was called upon every once in a while to do that. Now, after I left the Senate, the little show called Law and Order got a little more publicity than some of the other things I was doing. But that's kind of an interesting story in and of itself. I was been a lawyer, and after Watergate, I was counsel on the Watergate Committee, and I came back, started a little law office. A woman came to see me. She was chairman of the parole board. She said, I'm concerned about what I think is corruption in the state administration. To make a long story short, come to find out later, they were selling liquor licenses and pardons and paroles and things like that out of the governor's office. So because she wasn't going along with the whole program, even before she understood exactly what was going on, they fired her. And she came to me, I sued the governor and everybody else concerned, and we went to court and got a jury trial and beat them in their own backyard. And eventually he went to jail, and his legal counsel and several others did, and they made a movie about the whole thing, and I wound up playing myself in the movie.